The office fell silent. Everyone froze as the CEO, Richard Lawson, stared at the doorway, his face drained of color. Standing there, drenched from the rain, was the same German shepherd he'd ordered thrown out just days ago. Its amber eyes locked on him, not with fear but with something deeper. Recognition. And in that moment, the mighty CEO, known for his power and arrogance, felt something he hadn't in years: terror, because the dog wasn't just any stray. It was connected to a secret Richard had buried long ago. Just a week earlier, Lawson Industries had been its usual storm of stress. Employees hurried through corridors, clutching files, terrified of missing deadlines. At the top of it all sat Richard Lawson, a man whose empire was built on cold efficiency. He didn't believe in sympathy. Feelings don't build fortunes, he often said, and no one knew that better than Tom, the building's janitor. He'd worked there for 20 years, mopping floors, cleaning glass walls, and staying invisible. But lately, the staff had noticed something unusual: a stray German shepherd loitering outside the building's loading bay. Muddy, thin, and cautious, it always seemed to wait there, as if hoping for someone, while everyone ignored it. Tom didn't. Every evening when his shift ended, he'd set down a small bowl of leftovers, rice, chicken scraps, anything he could afford. He called the dog Buddy. "Here you go." "Boy," Tom whispered one night, crouching beside him as rain drizzled softly. Buddy wagged his tail weakly, his ribs showing through his soaked fur. "You gotta eat, huh? You look just like her old dog," Tom murmured. His eyes softened with memories. He didn't notice someone watching from the corner, Richard Lawson. The next morning, the storm hit. "Tom!" Richard's voice thundered through the marble lobby. The old janitor flinched, clutching his mop. "Sir?" Richard marched toward him, eyes flashing. "You've been feeding that filthy mutt outside my building?" Tom swallowed. "He's harmless, sir. Just hungry." "I didn't think—" "You didn't think," Richard barked, slamming his fist on the reception desk. "Do you know what stray animals bring? Fleas, disease, liability. You want a lawsuit, Tom?" The employees pretended to work, their eyes wide. I'm sorry, Mr. Lawson," Tom stammered. "It won't happen again." But Richard wasn't done. He smirked. "You're right. It won't." With one cold gesture, he handed Tom a slip of paper. "You're fired." The room went dead silent. Tom's mop fell from his hand. "Please," he whispered. "Sir, my wife's in the hospital. Her medication. Not my problem." Richard turned on his heel, his polished shoes echoing like hammers. Behind him, Tom's trembling voice broke. "He's just a dog, sir." "But you'll see." That night, the rain came down in sheets. The city glowed with reflections of headlights and water, but outside Lawson Industries, one figure stood motionless. Buddy. He waited, soaked and shivering. His golden eyes flickered toward the building, toward the window where he used to see Tom sweeping floors. Inside, Richard sat in his leather chair, sipping whiskey. His assistant, Grace, entered quietly. "Sir, I think there's an animal outside again." "Then call animal control," Richard snapped. Grace hesitated. "Sir, it's the same dog. The one Tom used to feed." Richard froze, his glass midair. He forced a laugh. "Then maybe it's waiting for its charity case." But deep down, something in that laugh trembled. That night, he dreamed. He was younger, driving through rain on a dark road. Headlights flashed, tires screeched, and then a dog's yelp. He'd slammed the brakes, jumped out, but the creature was already gone. When he woke up, sweat clung to his forehead. He couldn't explain why the dream felt so real, or why Buddy's eyes had looked so familiar. The next day, chaos erupted in the lobby. "Sir, you need to see this," Grace shouted. On the marble floor lay muddy paw prints, leading from the back entrance straight to the elevator. The night security guard swore he'd locked every door. "Someone must have let that animal in," Richard growled. The elevator dinged. Everyone turned. Out stepped Buddy, calm and silent. Gasps echoed through the hall. His fur was wet, but his gaze steady. He looked around, ignoring the crowd, and walked straight toward Richard's office. Richard stumbled back, heart pounding.
"How the hell?"
"Get that thing out."
But no one moved. Something about the way Buddy moved, deliberate, purposeful, made people hesitate. Buddy stopped at the CEO's office door. He sniffed the floor, then looked up, right at a framed photo on the wall, a photo of Richard and his late wife, Margaret. Buddy let out a low whine. The CEO's throat tightened. Grace spoke softly. Sir, he seems to recognize her. Richard snapped. Don't be ridiculous. But his voice broke. He turned the photo face down and stormed into his office. That night he couldn't focus. Every sound, every creak of the building made his nerves twitch. Finally, unable to bear it, he grabbed his coat and drove. He found himself at the old Maplewood Cemetery, the place he hadn't visited in years. Margaret's grave was there. Beneath an old oak tree, he knelt, brushing rain from the headstone. I'm sorry, Maggie. You'd laugh if you saw me arguing with a dog. A sound behind him made him turn. Buddy stood there. For a long time, they just looked at each other, two souls bound by something unseen. Then Buddy walked forward and dropped something at Richard's feet. A torn piece of cloth, faded but familiar. Richard froze. It was from Margaret's old scarf, the one she'd been wearing the night she died. Tears filled his eyes. How did you? Buddy whimpered, stepping closer, and in that moment memory crashed over Richard like a wave. The accident, the storm, the car. Margaret had been driving to pick him up when the road gave way. The only one who'd found her body had been her dog. Buddy, he'd run off into the woods after that night, presumed dead. Richard fell to his knees. Oh God, Buddy? The German shepherd whined softly, then rested his head on Richard's lap. The next morning, everyone arrived at work to a sight they'd never forget. The CEO's luxury car was parked outside the building, but instead of his usual grim entrance, he was sitting on the steps, feeding Buddy. Grace approached cautiously. Sir? Richard looked up, eyes tired but peaceful. He's not a stray, he said softly. He's family. He stood, brushing the rain from his coat. And I owe someone an apology. That afternoon he called a meeting. When Tom entered, hesitant, holding his hat, Richard walked up to him. Tom, he said, voice trembling. I was wrong, Tom blinked. Sir? Richard gestured toward Buddy, sitting calmly beside his desk. You showed compassion where I showed arrogance. You cared for what I threw away? He reached into his desk and handed Tom an envelope. You're reinstated with a raise and medical coverage for your wife. Tom's voice cracked. Sir, thank you. But what changed your mind? Richard looked down at Buddy. Sometimes life gives you second chances in forms you don't expect. I lost everything that mattered once. This dog reminded me what truly counts. The entire room was silent as Buddy wagged his tail, resting his head against Richard's leg. From that day, Buddy became the company's unofficial mascot. Employees who once walked past each other coldly now stopped to pet him. Smiles replaced tension. Tom and Richard, two men from different worlds, often shared lunch together in the courtyard, and every evening Buddy would curl up near the glass doors, watching the sunset over the city. Richard had changed, not just as a man, but as a leader. He started funding local shelters, offering free veterinary care for strays, and even created a small foundation named Margaret's Paws, dedicated to animals and people who'd lost their way. One evening, as the last employees left, Grace walked past Richard's office. He was sitting quietly, petting Buddy. The golden light of dusk poured through the windows, painting them both in peace. Funny, Richard said softly. He came back to save me, not the other way around. Buddy looked up at him, eyes gentle and knowing. And in that silent moment, man and dog understood. Sometimes the ones we cast aside are the ones sent to heal us. Weeks turned into months. The company thrived, but Richard no longer measured success in profits. He measured it in kindness, in every meal shared, every shelter saved, every stray that found a home. And Buddy, the once forgotten dog, became a symbol of hope and loyalty that changed an empire. If this story touched your heart, Richard would often say during company meetings, don't forget to give back, because love, in any form, is never wasted. And to you, dear listener, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.